Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second half of the Ebony Frame by Edith Nesbit. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me here today. We are audio only for this one because, frankly, my allergies are kicking my ass this spring, and I'm tired, so audio only. You might hear my cat in the background, or you might hear one of the neighbors with a chainsaw or a hedge clipper or some sort of mechanized gardening equipment. I'm unsure as to what it is exactly, but it is definitely there in the background, and I apologize. As usual, I apologize for any misspeaking and mispronunciations I might do over the course of the reading. And the usual content warning, grim and grisly, both in terms of subject matter and Victorian sensibilities about race and gender and all that sort of thing. So as usual, if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, feel free to close out this window and pick another video to watch. But if you're still here with me, quick recap. This guy has inherited his great aunt, I don't remember which, property, so her house and its contents, and he found this weird old portrait in the attic, hung it up. It's a beautiful woman, as is always the way in these sorts of stories, and he has been sort of staring at it wistfully and calling to her as we left it last time. So I'll just restart the story with that very last line from our previous video. Next moment, a hand touched me. A hand soft, warm, and human, and a low voice said, "You called me. I am here." At that touch and that voice, the world seemed to give a sort of bewildering half-turn. I hardly know how to express it, but at once it seemed not awful, not even unusual, for portraits to become flesh, only most natural, most right, most unspeakably fortunate. I laid my hand on hers. I looked from her to my portrait. I could not see it in the firelight. "We are not strangers," I said. "Oh no, not strangers." Those luminous eyes were looking up into mine. Those red lips were near me. With a passionate cry, a sense of having recovered life's one great good that had seemed wholly lost, I clasped her in my arms. She was no ghost. She was a woman, the only woman in the world. "How long," I said, "how long is it since I lost you?" She leaned back, hanging her full weight on the hands that were clasped behind my head. "How can I tell how long? There is no time in hell," she answered, which seems like a bit of a red flag, if I'm honest. Why were you in hell, lady? I feel like there's some pretty natural follow-up questions for that statement. "It was not a dream. Ah, no, there are no such dreams. I wish to God there could be. When in dreams do I see her eyes, hear her voice, feel her lips against my cheek, hold her hands to my lips as I did that night, the supreme night of my life. At first we hardly spoke. It seemed enough, after long grief and pain, to feel the arms of my true love round me once again. It is very difficult to tell my story. There are no words to express the sense of glad reunion, the complete realization of every hope and dream of a life that came upon me as I sat with my hand in hers and looked into her eyes. How could it have been a dream? When I left her sitting in the straight-back chair and went down to the kitchen to tell the maids I should want nothing more that I was busy and did not wish to be disturbed. When I fetched wood for the fire with my own hands and, bringing it in, found her still sitting there, saw the little brown head turn as I entered, saw the love in her dear eyes, when I threw myself at her feet and blessed the day I was born, since life had given me this. Well, that's all very romantic, but I still have questions about the hell thing. Not a thought of Mildred, of course not. All other things in my life were a dream. This, it's one splendid reality. I am wondering, she said after a while, when we had made such cheer, each of the other, as true lovers may after long parting, I am wondering how much you remember of our past. I remember nothing but that I love you, that I have loved you all my life. You remember nothing, really nothing, only that I am truly yours, that we have both suffered, that, tell me, my mistress dear, all that you remember, explain it all to me, make me understand. And yet, no, I do not want to understand. It is enough that we are together. If it was a dream, why have I never dreamed it again? She leaned down towards me. Her arm lay on my neck and drew my head till it rested on her shoulder. I am a ghost, I suppose, she said, laughing softly, and her laughter stirred memories which I just grasped at and just missed. But you and I know better, don't we? I will tell you everything you have forgotten. We loved each other. Ah, no, you have not forgotten that. And when you came back from the wars, we were to be married. Our pictures were painted before you went away. You know I was more learned than women of that day. Dear one, when you were gone, they said that I was a witch. They tried me. They said I should be burned, just because I had looked at the stars and gained more knowledge than other women. They must needs bind me to a stake and let me be eaten by the fire, and you far away. Her whole body trembled and shrank. Oh, love, what dream would have told me that my kisses would soothe even that memory? The night before, she went on, the devil did come to me. I was innocent before, you know it, don't you? And even then my sin was for you, because of the exceeding love I bore you. The devil came, and I sold my soul to eternal flame, but I got a good price. I got the right to come back through my picture, if anyone looking at it wished for me, as long as my picture stayed in its ebony frame. That frame was not carved by man's hand. I got the right to come back to you, O my heart's heart. And another thing I won, which you shall hear anon, they burned me for a witch. They made me suffer hell on earth, those faces all crowding round the crackling wood and the choking smell of the smoke. That's really interesting. She was accused of witchcraft, but wasn't ever actually a witch until everybody was already being a dick to her about it. Which is very similar to the plot of the movie The Witch, which if you have never seen, you definitely should. It's very good. Yeah. Is that ironic that she was never actually a witch until they accused her of it and backed her into a corner? I don't remember the definition of irony anymore, but it seems like it should be something. Oh, love, no more, no more. When my mother sat that night before my picture, she wept and cried, "Come back, my poor lost child." And I went to her with glad leaps of heart. Dear, she shrank from me, she fled, she shrieked and moaned of ghosts. She laid our pictures covered, or rather she had our pictures covered from sight, and put away in the ebony frame. Oh my God, I messed that sentence up. Let me try again. She had our pictures covered from sight and put again in the ebony frame. She had promised me my picture would stay always there. Ah, through all these years your face was against mine. Oh, that's kind of cool. So she did come back once already, but her mother freaked out, which I guess is kind of understandable. She paused. But the man you loved You came home. My picture was gone. They lied to you, and you married another woman. But someday I knew you would walk the world again and that I should find you." "The other gain?" I asked. "The other gain," she said slowly, "I gave my soul for. It is this. If you also give up your hopes of heaven, I can remain a woman. I can remain in your world. I can be your wife. Oh, my dear, after all these years, at last, at last." "If I sacrifice my soul," I said slowly, and the words did not seem an imbecility, "if I sacrifice my soul, I win you? Why, love, it's a contradiction in terms. You are my soul." Her eyes looked straight into mine. Whatever might happen, whatever did happen, whatever may happen, our two souls in that moment met and became one. "Then you choose, you deliberately choose, to give up your hopes of heaven for me as I gave up mine for you?" "I will not," I said, "give up my hope of heaven on any terms. Tell me what I must do that you and I may make our heaven here as now." Oh, of course. Guy doesn't want to do it. Big surprise. "I will tell you tomorrow," she said. "Be alone here tomorrow night." Pardon me. 12 is ghosts' time, isn't it? And then I will come out of the picture and never go back to it. I shall live with you and die and be buried, and there will be an end of me. But we shall live first, my heart's heart. So I'm slightly confused. It seems to me like he's saying, no, I won't do it, but she's kind of acting like he said yes. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Oh, well. I laid my head on her knee. A strange drowsiness overcame me. Holding her hand against my cheek, I lost consciousness. When I awoke, the gray November dawn was glimmering, ghost-like, through the uncurtained window. My head was pillowed on my arm and rested. I raised my head quickly, not on my lady's knee, but on the needlework cushion of the straight-backed chair. He's going to have prints all over his face. I sprang to my feet. I was stiff with cold and dazed with dreams, but I turned my eyes on the picture. There she sat, my lady, my dear love. I held out my arms, but the passionate cry I would have uttered died on my lips. She had said 12 o'clock. Her lightest word was my law. So I only stood in front of the picture and gazed into those gray-green eyes till tears of passionate happiness filled my own. Oh, my dear, how shall I pass the hours till I hold you again? No thought, then, of my whole life's completion and consummation being a dream. I staggered up to my room, fell across my bed, and slept heavily and dreamlessly. When I awoke, it was high noon. Mildred and her mother were coming to lunch. I remembered at 1 o'clock, Mildred coming and her existence. Now indeed the dream began. With a penetrating sense of the futility of any action apart from her, I gave the necessary orders for the reception of my guests. When Mildred and her mother came, I received them with cordiality, but my genial phrases all seemed to be someone else's. My voice sounded like an echo. My heart was not there. Still, the situation was not intolerable until the hour when afternoon tea was served in the drawing room. Mildred and Mother kept the conversational pot boiling with a profusion of genteel commonplaces, and I bore it as one in sight of heaven can bear mild purgatory. Oh, well, how good of you. I looked up at my sweetheart in the ebony frame, and I felt that anything which might happen, any irresponsible imbecility, any pathos of boredom, was nothing if, after all, she came to me again. And yet, when Mildred, too, looked at the portrait, she said, Doesn't she think a lot of herself? theatrical character, I suppose. One of your phrases, one of your flames, Mr. Devine. I had a sickening sense of impotent irritation, which had become absolute torture when Mildred, how could I have ever admired that chocolate box? Pardon me, I'm just going to have some tea because my throat is drying out. I had a sickening sense of impotent irritation, which became absolute torture when Mildred, how could I ever have admired that chocolate box barmaid style of prettiness? Oh, that's kind of harsh. Threw herself into the high-backed chair, covering the needlework with ridiculous flounces, and added, "Silence gives consent. Who is it, Mr. Devine? Also, silence absolutely does not give consent there, Mildred. Tell us all about her. I'm sure she has a story." Poor little Mildred, sitting there, smiling, serene in her confidence that her every word charmed me, sitting there with her rather pinched waist, her rather tight boots, her rather vulgar voice, sitting in the chair where my dear lady had sat when she told me her story. I could not bear it. "Don't sit there," I said. "It's not comfortable." But the woman would not be warned. With a laugh that set every nerve in my body vibrating with annoyance, she said, "Oh dear, mustn't I even sit in the same chair as your black velvet woman?" Black Velvet Woman, isn't that a song? I looked at the chair in the picture. It was the same, and in her chair Mildred was sitting. Then a horrible sense of the reality of Mildred came upon me. Was all this a reality after all? But for fortunate chance, might Mildred have occupied not only her chair, but her place in my life? There we go. We're starting to make sense of it. I rose. "I hope you won't think me rude," I said, "but I am obliged to go out." I forget what appointment I alleged. The lie came readily enough. I faced Mildred's pouts with the hope that she and her mother would not wait dinner for me. I fled. In another minute I was safe, alone, under the chill, cloudy autumn sky, free to think. Think of my dear lady. I walked for hours along streets and squares. I lived over and over again every look, every word and hand touch, every kiss. I was completely, unspeakably happy. Mildred was utterly forgotten. My lady of the ebony frame filled my heart and soul and spirit. As I heard 11 boom through the fog, I turned and went home. When I got to my street, I found a crowd surging through it, a strong red light filling the air. A house was on fire. Mine! I elbowed my way through the crowd, the picture of my lady, that, at least, I could save. I sprang up the steps. As I sprang up the steps, I saw, as in a dream, yes, this was all really dreamlike, I saw Mildred leaning out of the first-floor window, wringing her hands. "Come back, sir," cried a fireman. "We'll get the young lady out right enough." But my lady, the stairs were crackling, smoking, and as hot as hell. I went up to the room where her picture was. Strange to say, I only felt that the picture was a thing we should like to look on through the long, glad, wedded life that was to be ours. I never thought of it as being one with her. As I reached the first floor, I felt arms around my neck. The smoke was too thick for me to distinguish features. "Save me," a voice whispered. I clasped a figure in my hands and bore it with a strange disease down the shaking stairs and out into safety. It was Mildred. I knew that directly I clasped her. "Stand back," cried the crowd. "Everyone's safe," cried a fireman. The flames leaped from every window. The sky grew redder and redder. I sprang from the hands that would have held me. I leapt up the stairs. I leapt up the steps. I crawled up the stairs. Suddenly, the whole horror came to me. As long as my picture remains in the ebony frame, what if picture and frame perished together? I fought with the fire and with my own choking inability to fight with it. I pushed on. I must save my picture. I reached the drawing room. As I sprang in, I saw my lady, I swear it, through the smoke and the flames, hold out her arms to me, who came too late to save her and to save my own life's joy. I never saw her again. Before I could reach her or cry out to her, I felt the floor yield beneath my feet and I fell into the flames below. How did they save me? What does that matter? They saved me somehow, curse them. Every stick of my aunt's furniture was destroyed. My friends pointed out that, as the furniture was heavily insured, the carelessness of a nightly studious housemaid had done me no harm. No harm. That was how I won and lost my only love. I deny with all my soul in the denial that it was a dream. There are no such dreams. Dreams of longing and pain there are in plenty, but dreams of complete, of unspeakable happiness? Ah, no, it is the rest of life that is the dream. But if I think that way, why have I married Mildred and grown stout and dull and prosperous? I tell you, it is all this that is the dream. My dear lady only is the reality. And what does it matter what one does in a dream? And that is the end of the Ebony Frame. So it's quite a good one, I have to say. I really do feel bad, not for him, but for the woman in the portrait that was sort of cheated out of the life that she should have had twice. I mean, we can make all kinds of statements and interpretations of the devil and her selling her soul and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I feel the most sympathy with the woman from the portrait. So let me know what you thought of this story in the comments below. And again, if you have a suggestion or a request for a different story, please feel free to drop it down there as well. And I hope that you and your loved ones are safe and well, and that we can hang out here together again very soon. So goodbye, folks.